You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting. I'm a werewolf, and I'm good at my job.
Do you sometimes travel to space or sci-fi like locations, Zach?
No, I get to spend most of my summer in the beautiful state of Ohio, which is not where I live. I get to stay at the finest Hampton Inns of Ohio.
Gosh.
That's my summer.
You have to imagine when they eventually colonize the moon, it'll just be a bunch of Hampton Inns that you can just look out and see the earth. And
Oh, I am sure that the Hilton family will be like looking for those deals once there is a critical mass. I don't think they're going to be the first mover to that spot.
No.
Though maybe they might just throw their name on something and really just do it. I mean, they have such a big franchise model, but I do not think that the Moon Hampton would be able to meet the Hilton facilities guidelines.
I see. Yeah, there's probably some limitations there. We're talking about this because this week we originally had a prompt for X-Men on Mars, right?
We did.
Who requested this?
Well, that wasn't the prompt. The prompt was just to do X-Men Red. That was by Sam T.
Okay.
Sam T just said, "Could you talk about X-Men Red?" And I was like, "Yeah, great.
Yeah, we'd love to.
That would be super. Thank you for making my life better." And then we were like, "Well, how many X-Men stories can we do that are on Mars that Al Ewing didn't write?" And the answer was not enough. So we said, "Let's do space stories, like space mutant society planets." And we were like, "Yeah, we can do that." And then we probably could have completed that one, but we decided to also do a different comic that does take place on Earth in the 3000s.
See, this is not all your fault, Zach, because I do remember when we were planning for this episode, you had picked out like 5 different things, and
I did give us options.
And then I was like, let's do this one. And I think you agreed, and then we didn't realize till afterwards that it actually just happens on Earth. It just happens far into the future of Earth. So please forgive us, listeners and Sam.
I'll never forgive Sam, because there's nothing to forgive when you go over to patreon.com/battleoftheatom, reach down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple of coins into our coffers, just like Sam T did. And that's why Sam gets a whole episode dedicated to, this comic that they wanted us to talk about and that I also wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking last week about Gillen's Immortal, but we are going to be talking about the first 4 issues of X-Men Red Volume 2 by Al Ewing and Stefano Caselli. And the 4th issue is
Juan Cabal, Andreas Janele, and Michel Saint-Marie.
Thank you.
We get a lot. Here, can we start first things first? Can we do first things first?
Yeah.
X-Men Red's such a funny title. It's such a good title. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
It's great that they brought it back, right?
Insane title to reuse.
It's very funny.
Insane to use it in this context. Insane that it works.
Yes.
Al Ewing, you are a madman, and I love you. And I want to be clear. Anything I said last week was the honest truth about our past relationship, not our current relationship. Friend of the show, Al Ewing.
Oh, well,
have I told you that I once went up to Al Ewing at a con that no one was there, and I said, "Hey, don't people know you're Al Ewing?"
Yeah, and
he laughed at that, and then he knew who I was, and it was very nice.
Zach, I think I was at that same con. So
yeah, but I don't. You know what?
You walked away and you were like, "Hey, that's Al Ewing. Let me go by."
I was probably right by you. We were probably hanging out moments before and moments after. Now that I say that out loud, Adam, that's definitely what happened, wasn't it?
Oh, it's okay.
Because Al Ewing then went from pretty much right after that conversation and to the X-Men writers' room.
Yeah. So X-Men Red Volume 2 is really just picking up right where his volume of Sword Volume 2 left off. This is still a continuation of the space stuff of what's going on with Krakoa. And in particular, this is after planet-sized X-Men, where the X-Men helped basically create a living version of Mars for the population of Ayako to live on.
Which we're not talking about that, but that was so cool. That's
That's
so
so
cool that they
cool.
did that. It's
It's
so cool
great.
that they did that.
Yeah.
This is a comic about Storm and Magneto largely coming to this society. Storm has already been implanted as the regent of Soul, the
Yes.
queen of the entire solar system.
Mhm.
Mutant power is in her hands, and that has put her in the spot of being in charge of Araco. Now,
Yes.
here's what's interesting. I forgot that this comic opens up with Storm winning her place in the Great Seat.
Mhm.
She is fighting a Omega level shapeshifter who becomes the other person, heart and soul, mind and body, and all of that.
The
And
Nameless.
in this whole thing really is, if it doesn't, Al doesn't hit too hard on this, but the subtext is very clear. This whole thing is opening up with Storm having to confront herself. And can she do this even if she has been a leader in the past and not always succeeded? What can she learn specifically? And this part's really never stated, but specifically from her time as the Morlocks, which culminates with the Mutant Massacre, and is her being put into a place, winning trial by combat, and being appointed as leader, and not being of that society, being an outsider who is trying to lead that society without being of it and understanding what that culture really is. And that is such a powerful theme throughout this entire book, but especially here at the front.
Mhm.
And it comes through so freaking hard. Like, Ewing did the homework on this to make the Araco society feel real and different and informed by their experiences culturally.
Yep.
And two, that Storm and Magneto are the characters who get it and are trying to make that happen, and making that part of their arcs is so good. And especially to put them up against the colonizer, Abigail Brand.
It is a really smart world building, but it's also very character focused. And you're talking about Storm. If folks have not read the run of X-Men Red, it is the best Storm story that folks have gotten in a very, very long time with this character, who is often pulled back and sort of forced into the roles of the past. And this book starts by essentially killing that past version and saying, hey, no thrones on Arico. This is me. I'm going to rule my way. And
And I'm not going to rule. I am going to work with these people, the
yes,
people of this broken land,
yes,
to build something together.
yes. And this culminates, as Magneto is also finding his sort of self and, his post Hickman Inferno self as he comes to this planet and buddies up with the Fisher King. And, we'll get into some of the other political things that are happening here, but this essentially culminates with the two of them, both Storm and Magneto, forsaking their ability and their mutant right to be resurrected so that they can be closer to the society that they have joined.
Because they are not afraid of a life that ends.
Yeah.
Al Ewing! Here's
Yeah.
the thing about Al Ewing. Like, we're talking about this comic as it is a high-minded philosophical comic, and it truly is. Here's the flip side of this comic, and Ewing does this great. Stefano Castelli, fantastic artist to tie with him on this. This is also a comic filled with some of the most badass stuff that has ever happened in X-Men comics, and I would dare say has never been matched in density, in the amount of top badass things to ever happen in X-Men. So many of them are in these issues and then like the two right after it.
Yeah, it's fantastic because you have this. We were talking last week about the necessity of comics having fight scenes in them, and how in Immortal that felt like it was sidetracking from the interesting drama that could have been happening. Now, X-Men Red also has its Araco version of their Quiet Council, right? So they have
The
their
Great Ring.
group, the Great Ring, but there's a built-in fight dynamic to the society of Araco in which if anyone is challenged, they have to go fight to the death. So,
Or they can yield. They can choose
or they
not
can
to
yield.
fight.
That is true. But you have this constant thing happening in this book where almost on an issue by issue basis, someone is challenging someone in the Great Ring, for their seat of power. So there's a built-in like epic fight scene that's going to happen. And we get these really good. You mentioned Storm versus the Nameless One, but of course, this culminates with this amazing fight where we've gotten Vulcan. Well, we should talk about Vulcan for a second.
We should talk about
We'll
Vulcan.
build
So
up
Vulcan,
to
we have
Vulcan
to
versus
we have to
Tarn.
build up to it. The one thing
Yeah.
I'll say, like, oh, this comic's so good. I love it so much. Hold on, my dogs are barking.
growled. You just
And then
growled
my
like
dogs went
that, and all of
crazy.
your dogs
Yes.
are going crazy.
Yes.
Calm down, puppies. It's okay. Zach's just excited.
So
It's part of
comic's
it's part of the story now, Zach. The dogs can
Yeah.
bark.
So this comic's so good. The thing politically that's happening here, we talked about, Abigail Brand, the colonizer. What she's trying to do is a very, I say US government thing, but really most Western powers and Eastern, like it's not an East-West thing. China has done this plenty with governments that they back. They try and get their own person in there to run the government in a way that they will most benefit from. That's Abigail Brand's explicit goal in this. She's using Vulcan, Gabriel Summers, who has already filled that role in Shi'ar space. Like, he was an outsider who crafted Shi'ar to be his personal army, not becoming one of the Shi'ar, which is really good and interesting to have him here. Get more intrigue about what Vulcan's deal is, which is fun and will get built up on later in this run.
Yeah. We're getting the sense that Vulcan at this point is insane. We get the follow-up of the Petra and Sway stuff.
Which wasn't here's the thing, Adam, I'm gonna be honest. Would anyone have thought about that except for that Hickman said it in an interview once?
No, but
no one would have even worried about it.
I'm glad they brought it up because it adds dimension to his character, and he's getting riled up by everybody from Sunspot to Thunderbird. We've got Iska, the
badass moment that
unbeatable.
we haven't mentioned, and we won't mention it just because there's too much else going on. But when Thunderbird and Cable get into their bar fight, and Cable just starts reaming this guy, because he's Thunderbird. Like, people are like, oh, well, what's this character? No, he's exactly like he was written in his 3 issues.
Yep.
And
Cable says, yeah, you might have done that, but you had a plane to catch. Oh my God. Epic burn.
It's the best thing I've ever read. And that turns out to be a false flag operation because Cable and Thunderbird are actually working together and they don't like each other because Thunderbird blames him for the life that his younger brother is now leading. And that's fair.
Yeah. But that's how much nuance is here, right? So all of this is happening and we finally build up to what is it that would really make the Araco world better for everyone. And it's kind of agreed upon that the person that needs to go is Tarn, the Uncaring. And so Vulcan,
no one's disagreeing with this. Just to be clear, literally everyone else on the Great Ring, none of them like Tarn.
Yeah.
None of them think Tarn the Uncaring is good for society, is good for anything, and they see him as the explicit enemy and the influence of Amenth on the Great Ring because he betrayed them and sided with Amenth.
Yes, but by issue 3, Vulcan challenges Tarn. basically gets his head smashed into the ground. He is dead.
Immediately,
He is
Vulcan
dead.
is, and they even see, they're like, yeah, Abigail Brand didn't like fully realize just how much power Vulcan has, and that it is being hidden for some reason.
Yes, it's
And
being
caved
limited
off.
from his experience in the Cancerverse. He's hidden within a shell. Now, of
Because
course,
Vulcan never died, just to be clear.
right,
Because Vulcan never died, and
likes
then
to
Tarn
repeat that.
immediately kills him.
and taunts him for it. So we get Magneto coming in, who, talk about incredible badass moments.
Let's talk
Basically,
about
just plunks his helmet down on Tarn and crushes his head.
so
So
good,
so good.
but that's awesome on its own. That Magneto comes in and he says, "Okay, you're a power stealer. Here, now you can't use your brain powers. Sorry. Oh, now I just crushed your brain." It's so good. Makes Magneto the coolest guy ever. But there is another even better
Yes,
layer on top of it.
the
And that's where we have
Sunspot
to talk about
Iskabat.
Sunspot.
Yeah, Sunspot is wheeling and dealing. He wants Disco to come back. He started up an very Star Trek like demilitarized zone bar. He's talking to the Fisher King. He's talking to Storm. He's got his fingers in everywhere. And
Knowing where this is all going with Sunspot,
yeah,
rereading it, like, you got annoyed when we were rereading Immortal because you didn't like what was coming afterwards. Like, you had read the resolution to this and you're like, knowing the resolution to like some of the stuff that gets seeded in X-Men Red,
it's pretty great.
it only made me more excited about it.
Yeah. So we
Because
do.
Sunspot,
I'm assuming you want to talk about the bet,
I want
Sunspot
to talk
and
about
Iska the Unbeaten.
Sunspot goes to Iska, who is watching this fight happen. The fight between initially Vulcan and Tarn, and they chat and all this stuff, and that's great. Then the Magneto fight goes on, and Sunspot has talked his way into getting her guard down just to be very casual. And she says something about how Tarn, who, let's remember, Iska the Unbeaten, fought alongside Tarn in Ameth for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
She may hate him, think he is a bad person, but that is her comrade in arms. And that's important to Iska. And DaCosta, baby, Sunspot, says, "Yeah, you're right. I bet he loses. Or I bet he wins." And he tells Iska that. And Iska cannot lose. She can't lose. So he can't win. So Magneto can kill him.
Right.
And Iska knows that this was a setup. And she is in tears as she murders Sunspot, just to be clear. She immediately kills the boy for this.
Yes.
Knowing that she had her power used against her in what she sees as a profoundly violating way.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good story beat.
But it's really smart. It takes advantage of not only what Iska's powers are, but it also is really smart character moment for Sunspot. And it also really doubles down on what the rules are of this planet and how it works. Because they keep talking about that as you go through. Like, what does it actually mean? Can teamwork happen? Yes, the Fisher King says, because then it becomes tactics. And like, there are all of these little nuances to it that he builds on as the story goes through. It's so smart. It's extremely well written. The fourth issue gets into, a little bit of an emotional catch up issue because Sunspot gets a chance to get resurrected, has a great conversation with Wrong Slide. There's some really, really good stuff.
I
Yeah.
tell you why I didn't want to cap it at 3 and why I wanted to go to 4 on this
why?
one?
Yeah.
Because I think that the end of the fourth issue is the true emotional and like character arc resolution of this start, because it ends with Magneto and Storm, who are on the Great Ring, forsaking their ability to be resurrected.
Yes.
Like, that's where Magneto is not afraid of a life that ends.
Yeah.
And they have decided, no, we will be of you. And that is us drawing the biggest line in the sand that we will give everything for Ayako. That's where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It is. It's really
so
good. And this is not related to the issues we're covering, but in talking about this run as a whole, I just wish that the book had the ability to hold on to the quality of art from its beginning to end,
Yeah.
because the end of this book is actually really, really solid. It just lacks because of the artwork and
The Genesis War.
it's so
It,
that let's push that aside because I'm sure we'll rank that at some point. Why don't we
at
try
some
it?
point we will. But
Yeah.
yes, no, you're absolutely right. It unfortunately falls apart when it comes to art.
Yes.
But not in these. Not in these. Even if the fourth one has some fill-ins, there's some good fill-ins, so I'm not mad.
I would agree. So let's give this a shot. I think we're both very hot on this book. We are going to rank it on our big old list.
We are going to rank it on our big old list. The thing about our big old list is that it's a big old list of all the X-Men comics that have ever existed, from ranked from best to worst. Adam, would you like to venture a guess on what the best X-Men comic of all time is?
Well, that would be House of X Powers of 10.
That's true. The worst is 2099 World of Tomorrow, but there are 136 comics between that for a grand total of 138 X-Men comics that we've ranked. The 500th being Astonishing X-Men 48 to 56. That's the start of the Marjorie Liu run. The 1,000th worst being Deadpool and X-Force. No, it's not. That's the 1,003rd worst. It's Uncanny X-Men Sisterhood.
Oof.
Yeah, that one's bad too. Regardless, the worst is 2099 World Tomorrow. We already said that. Hey, Adam.
Hey.
I don't know who should... This is one where I think we're both going to play chicken with the list.
All right. Well, I feel like a good place to start is at 83. We have Sword Volume 2, numbers 1 through 5. I think this is better than that.
I think this is unabashedly better than this. I think this is heads and shoulders better than this. I also think, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to throw this out here.
Okay.
This is at number 17 is Messiah Complex. This is better than Messiah Complex, and I don't even think twice about that.
Wow.
Like, I'm looking at this. I'm not joking. I look at this. Messiah Complex. Yes, this, Adam, you do not know how hype I was when I was reading these. I was so hyped.
Look,
It's so good and it's so smart.
Really good.
It's both. It's smart and good.
It's
and
really
fun.
good. Here's
strong.
Here's what's difficult about this, right? We're talking about top 25, and I don't think it's impossible to slot it in. I think it's just where.
Okay, I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish.
So, for example, at 20 and 21 on our list, we have New Mutant Slumber Party, and we have Professor Xavier is a Jerk, Uncanny X-Men 168. Two absolute classic issues
Stone
of
Cold Killers.
X-Men with Sienkiewicz art and Paul Smith art. Now, I would say at 22, we have Supernovas. I would say this is as great as Supernovas is. I would say X-Men Red is definitely better than Supernovas.
Yes.
I'm curious if it really I also forgot to mention that at 19 is the bar issue.
The bar issue.
Colossus and Juggernaut. I'd be hard pressed to put X-Men Red ahead of those three issues.
Here's what I will say. I think you are letting nostalgia and the lack of wanting to put something so recent high cloud you a little bit, because you have loved those issues for decades. So have I. We collectively have loved those issues for decades. We have loved this one for 3 years.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think there's an X-Men comic in the last 3 years that's like even close to this one.
I mean, of the second half of the Krakoa era, it is by far the best of the bunch.
Here's the only thing I'll say. The only comics that I think X-Men comics from the last 3 years that might be better than the first 4 issues of X-Men Red are the next 2. Those are the Judgment War ones. Where
those are.
We know what happened with Magneto in that one.
Yeah, some really good Cable stuff.
I would say, like,
Yeah.
if I'm looking at this, I can confidently say that this is not as good as the Jasper's Warp
Yeah.
at 15. And it's been a while since I read Worst X-Man Ever, but I have a hard time, as much as I love that book, looking at it and be like, is that better than X-Men Red? Actually, sidebar, we should probably talk about, we have 400 coming up, and
We do. We might want to do a ranking.
I that's one that I think would be fun to go back and see.
I'm also looking down now. 23 Weapon X.
I think this is better than Weapon X. I do.
I think it's better written.
How do you feel about it? Because we have to take the list as it is.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it compared to the Dark Angel Saga?
Dark Angel Saga is really good.
Dark Angel Saga is really good.
It's really good.
Tell me though that this is not a more complete story than Dark Angel Saga.
I'm gonna give this to you. If it were just me on my own, I would probably put it in at 22. It is really good, and it has so many of those great standalone moments, and I'm a big fan of this coming out of this uncertain era of what were these books going to look like after Hickman left, and this just kills it. So let's put it in at 18.
Put it at 18. So you're going to say below Messiah Complex, above the Dark Angel Saga.
Let's do it. Let's get crazy.
Let's do it. I would have gone higher, but you know what? That's why this is a collaborative experience. It's our new number 18. It's X-Men Red, Alice version.
Listen, this is a really good comic book. So
it's a really good
comic book.
If
you've never read it, check it out. I don't know if these next two are going to fare as well, Zach.
Oh, no, I'd argue that the next two are actively bad.
Well, we made
a mistake, and we should have covered anything else.
Well, we are going to have an opportunity here to talk about one of the famous Image creators that everybody remembers and, wants to pick up all the back issues of, and that's, of course, Jim Valentino.
Jim Valentino, the Ringo Starr of Image.
He's vital to the creation of Image. I don't want to give the impression that he's not.
No.
But was anybody
just
really...
not in the making of the comics part?
Was everybody...
just not in the creating the comics?
Yeah, I don't know that everybody was like, can't wait for the next issue of Shadowhawk. I don't know that was the case.
Didn't Shadowhawk have HIV?
Shadowhawk, maybe? I don't remember. I remember it was a big deal when
He better have, or else I'm gonna look like the worst dude ever.
I just remember it was a big deal.
Yes, he did. He did have HIV. Okay. That's a wild choice. I only say that because that's a wild choice in 1992 to do to your big character.
His signature move was he broke backs. So that was his thing.
That's my signature move too, baby. Boom, got him.
And he, what did he do? Oh, it was a big deal when you finally got to see what his was under his mask, because, he was a black guy, and like Jim Valentino and Image like made this big deal about that. And it was like, oh, okay, I guess. But there was this like pop-up cover you could buy that like the mask actually like came up off. It was crazy. The 90s were a weird time, but before he was doing that, I know exactly. Right.
What?
Yeah. Chapel.
No, yes, he says you can have more than one black character, but let's put ourselves in 1992 shoes for a second, in Image comic shoes for a second. From a marketing perspective, that wouldn't have, Jim Valentino's wild.
He sure is, and nowhere can you see that more than in Guardians of the Galaxy. What issues are we doing here? 9 through 11. This is a wild couple of issues that feels very much like it's a what if comic.
Yeah, it's a super what ify comic. The Guardians of the Galaxy. You may be thinking about the ones that are in movies, and no, we're talking about different ones. Yes, technically some of these characters are in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and 3. Shut up, nerd.
Do they appear on screen as they do here? No, they do not.
Martin X pretty much does.
Okay. But Yondu, no.
Okay, yes, but Yondu was a wholesale creation for the movie. That's true. Yondu is in this. Martin Nixon, like Starhawk was played by Sylvester Stallone in one of those movies. It was weird.
Very strange. Yeah.
That was weird, and I don't even dislike Starhawk. Let's talk about. So we got Martin X, we got Nikki, we got Yondu, we got Charlie 27, we got Starhawk, we got Vance Astro, and we got Alita. Do you like any of these characters?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, like, remember their names. So I don't know. I mean, Charlie 27 is just like a big guy in Lederhosen who
Charlie 27 I kind of love.
He's
dumb looking.
He's a very 90s character. Like, he's just kind of wearing the what's that movie with Sean Connery?
He's wearing a bandolier is what he's wearing, right?
Oh, what is that movie called?
I don't have any context for what you're talking about.
Oh, Connery.
Oh, the one where he's wearing the Speedo and he's got the two bandoliers.
Yeah, Zardos.
He looks like that, but muscles.
Yeah, he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Zardos costume with a big gun. And so that, I guess that's kind of fun.
I do like Major Victory's design. That's the blue and white suit with the Captain America shield. Sure. I think it's slick.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the reason we're covering this, because you're probably going, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like X-Men, and it's
don't worry, none of these characters are important or going to be really discussed after this because none of them have individual characteristics.
No, but this does take place in an alternate future in which the mutants were forced to leave the planet Earth and find habitation elsewhere. And unfortunately, their descendants, of which there are only 9 left, are terrible villains who rule from on high. The 9.
Yeah, so they have a mutant planet. And Wolverine's great granddaughter, Rancor. Rancor's nothing. Like, I wish she was something. She's nothing. And she has her lieutenants. I only know 2 of their names. No, 3. I remember Shadow because it's spelled stupid.
Yeah.
Batwing's the lieutenant that we get the most around. And by the way, Jim Valentino, these are not good designs. Like, no. Wow, they look like sub-image designs, all of these.
Yep.
And also Rodney.
Rodney!
Okay, I'm glad you also picked up on Batwing screaming Rodney so much because him and Rodney love each other.
Well, Rodney was definitely Batwing's boyfriend, right?
Yeah. I would say life partner really more than anything else.
That was very clear when Rodney bites the dust.
People are like, oh, North Star is Marvel's first gay character, and they're forgetting about Rodney.
Oh, Rodney.
Rodney doesn't do anything besides being like a foot soldier and leader of a fascist state. Rodney seems to be pretty chill.
Yeah. So the 9, these villains led by Rancor, are ruling the planet, and the people of this planet have this theory, like this belief that the Overmen are going to come and rescue them at some point. And the Guardians are, parked above the planet and are like, I guess we'll go check this out. And
we'll do space adventures.
Yeah. And the people of this planet are like, oh, thank God you're here to rescue us. And they're like, yeah, I guess we will.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
No, the Guardians try and do things. There's too many characters who I don't know enough about to care one way or another. But it turns out this was all a plot by Gerard and Starhawk to give Gerard something that's very important to the mutants.
Yes. What could it be, Zach?
Force. It's the Phoenix Force.
That is right. The 31st century, there shall be a Phoenix. And Gerard, who basically just looks like the Beyonder, sort of. I mean, he's just like a guy with long black hair. Has a terrible Phoenix design when he becomes the Phoenix. It's really bad.
He's just wearing a black singlet with the Phoenix logo on it. Like, there's a lot of bad people who got the Phoenix, and it's just not interesting.
Yeah. This one's up there. It's pretty bad.
Because he's like supposed to be something and he keeps showing up apparently. I'm not reading the rest of Guardians of the Galaxy or Galactic Guardians or whatever it is. I'm not doing that.
No, it's not what I would call good comics. Jim Valentino's an interesting artist because like he bridges, like he's somewhere in between your old school kind of 70s Marvel art. So this almost feels like a Silver Age book, but then it's clearly also very much trying to like adopt things from the Liefeld,
Oh yeah.
visual palette and do things that are very 90s. Like, the cover to issue 10 is Charlie 27 with like a splash of blood
Okay,
on
but
their background.
oh no, that is a Jim Lee inked cover.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting. Yeah.
that's art by Valentino. And what's interesting is Liefeld does the inks on the cover to 9. Lee does the inks on the cover to 10.
Mhm.
And 11 is Bob Wyacek,
Okay.
who did not join the Image crew. But
No.
I do think the covers are a very interesting, like, look on the impact of inkers because they all do look very different.
Yeah.
Like I can see the Jim Lee and the Rob Liefeld in those two covers very clearly.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell it from a mile away, but it's just interesting how this story, which is very, I would say, old fashioned, is also trying to be of the moment and, you know, along the same lines as some of its contemporaries. I can't say it succeeds.
No, it fails miserably. It's boring and not fun to read. That's
Yeah,
its biggest sin is that I don't want to read it. It's not fun. I didn't enjoy anything except for Rodney.
I also want to point out that these 3 issues, which feature Rancor, also came out at the very same time that another comic book was on the shelves with another version of a female Wolverine. And
You
that
talking
is,
about what though?
I'm talking about What the Number 11, which premiered at the same exact time with a character called Wolverina, a
I
recurring
wasn't gonna
character.
bring up Wolverina because I felt like that was such a deep cut that I was. But I'm glad that you also noticed that like she looks like Wolverina, right? She just
I
looks like
just
Wolverina.
I just want to bring up Wolverina because Wolverina's character design is so much better than Rancor. Rancor looks
And
so
Wolverina
bad.
does not have a good character design.
No.
Like that's the thing. She
It's just,
also has a bad character design because she was a goofy joke character.
yes. But when you compare the two, you're like, oh, it's just it lends the idea that maybe this particular story in Guardians is like kind of a parody, and it feels, like I said, like a what if comic, and it doesn't feel like it has any stakes, or
There's
I don't
nothing
know.
to this.
It's
Like maybe
tough.
if you're invested in the ongoing adventures of Vance Astro or Martin X, the guy who looks like Iceman but isn't.
Yeah, he really does. He
It's
really
just what he
does.
looks like. He's always looked that way. Always
Yeah.
will. I get it. I get it. Jim Valentino did not design or create these characters, but it's what they look like.
Yeah. So I didn't think this was particularly good.
I would say it's particularly bad, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it just
I
has.
always thought the idea of, oh, what's this mutant society from the 90s? That would be an interesting comic to read. And it's not.
No,
I wish it was. It's not interesting to read.
no, it's unfortunate. I really do think that this is quite poor and probably is in the 900s.
I mean, let's see. What's at 900 right now? Let's take a look. At 900 right now is Profit Cable. Okay, yep, you got me.
Yeah.
Got it in one, Adam.
Telling you, this is worse. Is this worse than the 12 at 979?
979. No, because that's incomprehensible. Like, we're getting into. Look, I don't like the story that they're telling in this World of Mutants because it's mostly boring.
Yeah.
But I do follow the narrative throughput. I did get a little concerned at one point when I was like, did they just blow up all of the women and children and like everybody on that planet? And it turns out they survived. But they were willing to.
Yes.
That was a wild thing. Like, this is we have at 942 and 943 Spider-Man and X Factor Shadow Games and Psylocke and Archangel Crimson Dawn.
Similar.
Both bad, but like they are narratives from 1 to 2 to 3, you know? Like,
yeah.
I think we're in that.
I think we're in a very similar place. I would slot this maybe right below Crimson Dawn and above Surfer's Paradise at 944 from Extreme X-Men.
I mean, sure. I'm not mad about it. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't have any thoughts about Surfer's Paradise.
No, I mean, I don't know. This is just a nothing story.
It's fine.
It's kind of hard.
I can't believe we got 10 minutes worth of content out of it.
I don't know if we'll get 10 minutes out of our third story. This is I can't just call it the sequel to Adventures to Cyclops and Phoenix because
it's a sequel to
was
it.
the further, but it is a sequel, and this is Ascani-san.
It's written by Scott Lobdell and your friend Jeff Loeb. I know you love him so much.
Don't call him that.
Your best friend Jeff Loeb.
I don't like that. I got best friends. They're not him.
You guys run around in your martial arts costumes and talking about things. Put them aside. I can't believe it took 2 writers to get this little of a story out there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Gene Ha for a second. Gene Ha rips. Gene Ha is so good on Ascani-san, drawing incredible work on every single page. I had just recently had a chance to read Top 10. I just had never done it before.
Don't know what that is. What is that?
Top 10 was the police procedural comic that Gene Ha and Alan Moore did for ABC, the imprint of Wildcats, America's Best Comics.
Yes.
I think Alan Moore was pretty upset about when Jim Lee immediately sold it to DC.
Oof. Brutal.
Listen, say what you will about his writing. I don't want to relitigate it. He's making some pretty valid points there.
Yeah.
ABC's just another showcase for Gene Ha. Actually, Gene Ha, just as a heads up, if you're trying to figure out what Gene Ha's been up to, Gene Ha is doing a story for Minor Threats universe. With friend of the show, Jordan Bloom, and potential pending friend of the show, Patton Oswalt. Patton, if you ever want to be my friend, let me know. You will be a great cocktail story. That's about it. Like, I'm sure me and Remy from Ratatouille could kick it off.
Zach, you're really not making your case. Hold
on. What would you rather me call Patton Oswalt? I feel like that's his most beloved role. Would you like me to call him the voice of MODOK? No. Would you like me to call him the voice of... Did he voice on... Oh,
Zach, it's not about the character you chose. It's that you suggested that that the most you can get out of interacting with him is a nice story to tell over cocktails.
I mean, let's be honest. Me and Patton, we live on different sides of the country. We're not going out and getting a beer every weekend. Like, let's call a spade here, Adam. Me and Patton Oswalt will never be friends. We can hang out once or twice, maybe. But Zach,
you got to be
we're
open.
Different social strata.
You got to let this friendship into your heart. I want to talk about Gene Ha.
Let's talk about Gene Ha. Please talk about Gene Ha.
Gene Ha is doing the most Gene Ha he can here. I will say, in comparison to the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, I believe I prefer the art in Ascani-san. I think that he's doing some really interesting things here that a lot of artists would not, in terms of photorealism, but also in terms of trying to make surfaces along the actual forms of bodies to make them look sculptural, to almost make surfaces look like they're etched in a way. That are just fascinating to me. What I do want to say, though, and I believe I said this when we covered Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, I don't know that I actually like Gene Ha's art. I can appreciate that I enjoy looking at it, but I respect the hell out of it because I know how much work went into it. And I have to respect it because I do think that on a core level, he has a really good understanding of storytelling, anatomy, acting with his characters, all of the things you would want. Unfortunately, as you indicated earlier, there's not much of a story here.
So here's what happens. Cable is a late teen, early 20 something.
Yep.
He looks like beep 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 X-Man
He does.
update. He looks like, which is great. I like that bit. He then teams up with what's his name? Tetherblood?
Tetherblood.
Teams up with Tetherblood, meets
Blacksmith.
Blacksmith, meets Aaliyah, and gets called the Messiah. That's it. That's what happens across this entire freaking comic.
Yeah, Strife
It's
and
very long.
Strife and Chevere are back. This
Strife
is also
does build Zero.
he built Zero, which is kind of fun. But
I did get a pop for Zero.
yeah, that's about it. They have to find the Ascani, and Cable is like kind of an obnoxious teen who is being told he's the one, and it's like, okay, we've definitely seen this story before. This is not, he knows how to use the what's
Scimitar.
the scimitar, it's like, who cares? I don't know. It's just not very dramatically interesting, and
No.
really it's just a showcase for Gene Ha to do his thing, and that's fine.
That's it. I mean, look, I hadn't read this in a while, and there's a lot of X-Men comics that aren't bad that I have forgotten about. I thought maybe this would be one of them. Like, I'm older now, I can appreciate Gene Ha's art a lot more, and maybe the story is interesting. It's not. It's bad, actually.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
There's so little here. I was like, this is still going on? I've very rarely does a comic that is only 4 issues long drag as much as this comic does.
And it's kind of unfortunate because it is introducing some interesting futuristic concepts, but it gets bogged down in little, vignettes and things that don't really tie together cohesively for a complete story. So
I also don't feel like, I feel like the quote unquote right way to do this comic is to go from Cable, where we left him in Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, to the Cable that we get. Like, how did we get from this guy to grizzled, big, strong Cable man?
Sure.
And we don't get that. We get to how he got to the part where he probably starts to become Cable.
Right.
But that should be the end of issue 1, buddy.
That
should be assemble the team. We don't need 4 issues to assemble the team of characters who we will never see again.
Well, we do see, is Aaliyah an ongoing
Yeah, that's
character in
Cable's.
Yeah, that's Cable's first
Cable,
wife. Right?
well,
Jen Scott.
I mean, you say ongoing character in Cable. She may appear in 2 other comics.
I just remember her from Cable number.
She
1.
has 18 total appearances, Adam.
She also dies in Cable number 1.
Yeah, most of those appearances written by Ed Brisson, where she is in a bit of his X-Force.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Aaliyah is not an ongoing concern.
She is the mother of Tyler Dayspring, so
yeah, and that's unfortunate for her. No one should have to do that.
No. So, if you are a fan of Gene Ha's work, I highly recommend you check this out. It's got a lot of really interesting, engaging stuff to look at, but it is very thin on story, and you could read about a character going from point A to point B in a lot of different stories in way more interesting fashion. So, this certainly will not go as high as the first 2 volumes of Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. This is going to be pretty bad. It's not I don't think it's
neither
as bad
adventures
as,
nor further adventures.
No, this is not as bad as the Guardians we were just talking about, because the art is way better.
It's so much. The art's so much better that I can forgive a lot more.
Yeah. How do you think it compares to something like Wildcats X-Men at 784?
Wildcats X-Men's better.
Yeah.
Wildcats X-Men has good art, weird art. Okay, it doesn't have good art at the end, but it does have some weird art throughout all of it, and it just Wildcats X-Men has a page where Grifter and Jean Grey make out.
Oh, yeah.
That's better than any page that's ever come from this comic. And I say that with so much love for Jean Ha.
Sinister had to get that Jean Grey genetic material somehow.
No one can ever tell me otherwise. The best Wildcats character made out with Jean instead of Scott. Like, I love that. I love that.
Well, at 900, we have Prophet Cable. Better
than Prophet Cable.
I'd
This
say
is
it's
better
better.
than Prophet Cable. Yeah.
I'd say it's better.
Wait, hold on.
So we're in the 800s.
Yeah, we got to be in the 800s somewhere. This is better than X-Men Green. This is better than Kings of Pain. This is on par with Secret Empire from X-Men Blue at 854 and Emma Frost Mind Games at 855. But I would put this below the Avengers tie-in to Inferno at 853.
That sounds fine with me. So at 854, we are going to put in Ascani Sun, only for true completers of the 90s.
If you need to know every bit of Cable continuity, God bless you.
I mean, Blacksmith looks pretty cool here. I mean, he's
Blacksmith. Okay, here's one thing that does bother me. This is what bothers me. Blacksmith, probably the one thing that I would like to be explained, not explained.
Nope.
Nothing about Blacksmith.
Just shows up.
Is he a dude?
I don't know.
I feel like if we're going to do this comic, you should give me some pretty definitive answers of, is Blacksmith a dude?
I don't know. Professor also just shows up, the supercomputer, who then
the one that was the ship that they were previously living in.
Yeah.
He was like born and raised in. Man, I don't know. This is a weird comic. It's not very good. But thank you to Sam T for letting us talk about fun comics for an hour or so.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted. You let me reread X-Men Red, and that's a good thing. That is a net good in society. The more that you can reread X-Men Red, it's great. Mm-hmm. One thing for you, Adam, before we wrap up, can you name every character that Patton Oswalt has played or voiced in Marvel? Every Marvel superhero that every Marvel character that Patton Oswalt has been.
I mean, I thought it was just Pip the Troll.
Nope.
Oh,
Pip
wait.
The Troll.
Hold on. He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes. Do you remember his character's name?
No.
It's Agent Koenig. It's fine.
Okay. There's more?
Yeah.
I don't know.
MODOK.
Oh, of course. MODOK. Sorry.
And in a Spider-Man TV show, he played the Chameleon.
Oh.
And Uncle Ben, apparently.
Whoa. Good for Patton.
That's weird.
I didn't know that.
Good for Patton. Look, Patton's a guy that does work. He gets jobs. God,
I wish we had more of that MODOK show. Anyway.
That MODOK show was good. Like, I know Jordan's like a buddy. And like I did DM Jordan about Jean Ha recently. And by the way, folks, I'm just going to give a plug. If you haven't read Minor Threats, go read the World of Minor Threats stuff. It's all really good.
Check it out.
Go check it out. There's a guy named King Louie or Crab Louie in there. He's a sensational character. There's Barfly, whose name we can't say on a podcast that has not an explicit rating on it. He's great. Kyle Starks wrote that one. There's a lot of good characters.
I'm glad they're having success with that. It's fun.
What do you got going on, Adam, that's not fun facts about Patton Oswalt?
I am not Patton Oswalt, but you can follow on social, Adam Recca on Blue Sky and Instagram. And Zach, what are we doing next time?
You know how Patton Oswalt's character on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a lot of siblings that looked just like him?
Yes, I do remember that.
Before we jump into the rest of this bit, sidebar, how much of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did you watch, Adam?
I think it started to lose me once they got off planet. I think I kind of skimmed through.
Did you get to the part where Ghost Rider shows up?
Yeah, I got to the Ghost Rider part, but I think that the ending where Clark Gregg comes back as an evil guy, I don't think I got that far.
Oh, I didn't know he did that. That's fine. I also got to the start of they're off planet and it's an Inhuman story more than the entire show was an Inhuman story. And I was like, I'm not invested in this anymore.
Yeah, it's okay.
That was a weird show.
Weird
if people
show. Had Deathlock, had Ghost Rider.
I don't know if people should watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think people, like, if you need a trash show, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be a good trash show to watch. If that makes sense.
Was entertained many times by that program. All right, so Zach, you were talking about Patton Oswalt playing multiple people who looked exactly the same because
Thank you
next
for bringing
time
us back into the bit. Yes, because next time we're doing comics where the artists draw a lot of people the same. That's what we're doing, folks.
Great
But
gimmick.
until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survive the experience.
Get